this is Raina Campbell, your Chief Dream Driver, and welcome to the No Parking Podcast, where through conversations and discussions with creators like yourself, we'll find interesting approaches to help you take your dreams out of park, put them in drive, and ride towards success. Hey Dream Drivers, welcome to episode 23 of the Dreams and Drive No Parking Podcast. And today our guest is Anuj Patel, who's the COO and co-founder of Daily Beat Media, a digital media network that includes editorial platforms, a virtual reality studio, and an online radio station. And Daily Beat is all about dance music. So if you guys are into any aspect of dance music, then their sites are for you. I actually know Anuj because we go way back, all the way to 8th grade. We both attended middle and high school at Dwight Englewood School up in Englewood, New Jersey. So we recently connected via Facebook because I had a status that said, hey, I'm looking for someone to interview me on an upcoming episode of Dreams and Drive, and he was the first person who responded. We set up a time to chat, and then we decided that it would actually be cool if I interviewed him for one episode and he interviewed me. So episode 23 and 24 will kind of be a little collab between Anuj and I, which I think is fun. So in this episode, Anuj really dives deep into his own path to entrepreneurship. He talks a lot about how helping to run his family business inspired him, how his parents inspired him, what he's learned along the way about growing and scaling an online business, fostering partnerships with big brands such as Red Bull, Monster Energy, to name a few. We really go in depth into what it's like being a 25-year-old running a business and just how to balance it all. I think that you guys will enjoy hearing Anuj's firsthand account about what dream driving means to him and just what you have to do to be successful, especially as a young person with an idea, a young person with a vision. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode. I enjoyed talking to Anuj. I think you guys will especially enjoy when he interviews me on episode 24. Hey Anuj, thank you for coming on for this episode of Dreams and Drive No Parking. I'm so excited to talk to you.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Can you imagine it's going to be like, how long has it been since we graduated from high school?
2009, right? So that's like 7 years now.
I know. It's just so crazy. It's so crazy thinking that at one point we were freshmen and we didn't know anything about life.
I know it's pretty crazy because, now I just had my birthday like last month, and it's just like a whirlwind. I feel like such an adult like overnight. It's like you feel like all these responsibilities that you have, and sometimes you think about back in the day, and it's just like, wow, I can't believe I'm sitting here now as a proper adult with real responsibilities.
But you know what's funny? I always tell this to my friends. They don't understand what I mean. I'm like, but in my head, I feel like, or my body, I still feel young. Like, I don't, do you know what I'm saying? I didn't really feel like a big shift in how I actually feel as a person. I definitely have more responsibilities, but I still have that like spunk. And hopefully that never goes away. Like, I want to be that person who's 40 and still feels like they're 20. Like their brain still feels young and fresh or whatever. So
yeah, I completely agree. I always believe that age is really just a number. It really just depends on how, what age you want to act and how youthful you want to be. So I'm definitely a believer in age is just a number. So, yep, that's where I stand on that.
So what did you do after high school? I feel like we've been friends on Facebook since high school, but we really haven't had like an in-depth conversation. So kind of fill me in. What happened after Dwight Englewood?
So after Dwight, I went to school at Northeastern University in Boston. And then after that, I came home to join the family business as well. So then I finished my degree really at Ramapo University. It's a local college here in New Jersey. But majority of everything I did was up in Boston. So yeah, I mean, I basically got the Northeastern education, which is pretty cool. And then, yeah, from there, I joined, kind of joined my family business just to get experience and, learn about being a business owner and things like that. So,
what was the family business?
So we own a bunch of quick service restaurants and commercial real estate. So there's a lot of management and logistics and operational tidbits that go into it. So that's really what I wanted to learn, and really learn more about responsibility and running an entire organization.
So, what do you think were some of the biggest learning moments for you when you came back and helped to run the business?
So it's tough to say. It's tough to say one thing in particular because when you grow up in a family of business owners, you're kind of you don't even realize it, but you're being groomed just by watching your parents and watching your family members operate and how they run their businesses and stuff. So you don't even realize it, but you're learning at a very young age, and all that information compounds on top of each other, and it kind of just culminates as an adult when when you're taking your first steps as hopefully as a business owner. And so if I was going to say what did I learn particularly, it would be more about the operational viewpoint of the
Mm-hmm.
business, and actually getting it from connecting points A to B, as in being a business owner, but also the day to day life of a business owner, and actually doing the work that's involved with that.
And do you think that experience really helped you as you decided to launch your own ventures?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm blessed enough that I had a great experience with my family. I've learned so much just from them and them being in business. And on top of that, my family, they're immigrants. I'm the first
Mm-hmm.
generation American, so I always had that conservative, South Asian discipline growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's a theme. I mean, if you talk to a lot of South Asian or Indian kids that the first generation, they'll tell you the same thing, that it doesn't matter, if your parents had $0 or $100, you were getting the same amount of discipline and training, and it's all the same. It's all standardized across the world for us people. So yeah, no, it's something that it caught me at a very young age, and I was able to get, thanks to my parents, that they were able to train me right, and raise me correctly as well. So
Yeah, I think that's also like a theme in my own life too. Because my parents, so I'm first gen. Well, yeah, I'm first generation American because my parents were born in Jamaica, and I feel like that whole immigrant mentality when you come to America, it's like you didn't come here to waste the opportunity. So that was definitely something that my parents also handed down to me. Is that whole idea of having a strong ethic, and also working hard for what you want, and at the same time not expecting that it's going to come easy. So that's something that I definitely I know how that feels too.
yeah, no, and I mean, God forbid we ever did stray, your parents would put you back on track so quickly.
Yes.
And we're better for it, to be honest.
No,
So
I sometimes like wonder like how would my life be if I had grown up in a different like culturally different, because I just feel like my Jamaican culture is just so much a part of who I am today that I just sometimes wonder like it would be fun if they had invented a machine that allowed you to go back in time as a different person and see how you would have ended up. So that's
yeah, no,
I'm gonna
actually,
invent that.
I've thought about that so many times. Not even just that, but what if I lived in a different area, a different part of the country? How would that
Mhm.
turn out? Because living here in New York City, everything that you do is efficient. Every movement you make, every time you go anywhere, you're trying to get there as quick as possible. And it's just a big city mentality, even in the neighboring area. So yeah, I think about that all the time. What if I wasn't brought up as with an immigrant culture? What if I was growing up somewhere else, a different city?
Mhm.
So it is really interesting to see how all those background pieces of information really come to the forefront when you do jump into your own business and things like that.
Definitely. And one thing that I wanted to mention was I like that you had the whole experience of going home and actually working in a business and seeing how an efficient business runs. Because I think a lot of young entrepreneurs, and you may know some, they have this idea of what being an entrepreneur is until they actually have to start a business, right? And they jump into it without any experience sometimes. And I think personally, like I think that before you launch something, you need to have a sense of what running a business is like. Even if you're not actually at a business, maybe you're interning or you're shadowing someone or you have a mentor. I think that could really help the whole launch process. Do you agree?
I do agree, but I also disagree in some regards, and
Mhm.
I'll explain why.
Okay.
I believe that most of the education people get in colleges most of the time it doesn't really set them up for success after school.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason I'm saying that is because every time, when we go to school, when we go to college or high school, whatever it may be, our only objective is to get good grades and pass our classes and pass exams, standardized exams.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's ever teaching us anything that's super valuable. Even in internships, even when you're young in high school, maybe in college, you go to internships. Sure, like there's definitely an opportunity for you to learn. But a lot of the times you're wasting your time doing busy work, getting coffee for people. And while I do agree, like that is some time that you need to put in, there's always that education that comes from outside and just being in society and trying,
Mm-hmm.
doing your own education system, outside of school. I think that's also really, really huge.
No, I agree. And I think maybe I'll clarify is when I meant experience, I meant more of like that hands on experience. So actually like taking the time and not just reading about what running a business is like, but actually maybe working somewhere or taking time to say, hey, I'm going to try to see how somebody else successfully did this before trying. Like, do you think that you have to necessarily shadow someone or research it before launching into it?
It definitely doesn't hurt, right?
Okay.
I do agree with that as well. It's amazing to always get experience in what you want to do, particularly. It is always great, to have experience in seeing other people operate their businesses, so that when time comes, if you decide to open up your own, that you do know what it's like, and you do have at least from a structural point of view, you kind of understand how businesses are run.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I do agree, but at the same time, we live in an age where um, anyone can really start their own business, and you don't need experience. It's something that, if you know how to code and you make an app and it blows up, you're a millionaire. So and that kind of also ties in with the word entrepreneur. I feel like the word entrepreneur is is dead in terms of the classical term,
Mm-hmm.
because now we kind of don't do the word justice anymore, because anyone can really start their own business. And like I said, you can start your own home business, and that's great. That, I think, that speaks volumes to the fact that the American dream is still alive. But on the flip side, I think we're forging a new term for we're forging a new meaning for the word entrepreneur. It's like a new age one. So that's what I really think about that. But going back to your original question, I know we kind of just veered off on a
Oh no, it's
tangent,
fine.
but
It's fine.
yeah, no, I do agree. It definitely helps to get experience in seeing how businesses are run logistically and structurally and operationally, for sure.
So what was the first business you started? You had Beacon Records, right?
Yes, with a fellow high school classmate of ours, actually,
Who?
Christopher Lavinio. He was actually a grade below us.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Hi,
So
Chris, if you're listening.
so how did that come about?
So most random thing. I remember he posted something on Facebook, just something out of the blue. I think he posted a really cool picture, and I liked it, and I was like, "Hey, like, what is that? It's cool," or whatever. And we just literally just started talking, and it's one thing led to another. I was like, what are you up to these days? He's like, oh, I'm starting this record label. He actually started it with a friend of his, and I kind of just jumped in, at the ground floor.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, one thing led to another, and next thing you know, we started working together at the record label, and that kind of snowballed into the entire media company, which we own today.
So Daily Beat what came from Beacon Records?
Yeah, so
Okay.
Beacon Records was an independent music label that kind of worked under dance music, and so everything that we were doing was dance music related. So we also had the idea of opening up our own website or blog where we just discussed music and news and editorial opinion pieces, things like that. And that kind of just snowballed. I mean, we had a really good team in the beginning, and kind of it just we added more and more people, and it kind of just grew to a bigger thing that we were actually expecting. And we kind of looked at each other and said, this could be its own thing. We could technically just put the record business on the side and just completely build a digital media platform with multiple sites and things like that. And that's kind of what we did.
All right, so let's talk about the launch process for Daily Beat. What were those early days like, and what were some of your goals in the beginning when launching and building the site?
So when we were one site, which was just Daily Beat, it
Mm-hmm.
was to be honest, it was difficult because you needed to figure out your brand and what you wanted to do and who you wanted to be. Um, then you have to have connections in terms of building your website. Who's going to run it? Who's going to supply content? Because you can't be out there, like 10 hours a day, going to like concerts and writing about them and things like that. So, how do you bring on people? And, obviously it's not something where you can pay people out because, you're just kind of doing it as like a hobby slash brand new business, right? So, how do you bring people on and how do you expand really without much capital? So the biggest thing that we really wanted to do is we didn't want to worry about money at first. We wanted to really just build and figure out what we wanted to do. And even to this day, like that's kind of our priority. We kind of we're not always chasing the money side of it. We're kind of just chasing our own success and our own excellence, and that stuff kind of just follows at the end. But yeah, the early days were confusing just because you have to figure out what you want to do. It's as simple as saying like who do we want to be and what do we want to represent.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very important that you get all that groundwork out of the way, or not out of the way, but you establish all that stuff in the very very beginning.
So I know that you guys are a niche site. So you are a music site, but you're not hip hop. You're not rock. You're definitely like EDM, dance music. How important, or for people listening in, like, why do you think establishing a niche, especially when you're starting out, is so important?
Um, you need to really just focus and try to pick one thing and be as amazing as you can in that one thing when you first start out. I mean, I know when we first started out, when it was just one site, it was just kind of started out of passion, right? So we all loved, me, Chris, and some of our core team members, we just loved dance music. So that was what we were doing, and it just made sense to us, right? And keep in mind, I'm like educated and trained in biology, so it has nothing to do with the music industry, right? So it's just everything kind of stemmed out of passion and hobby, and here we are a couple of years later. We have like 6 million monthly views, and we have like 8 or 9 different platforms. So you gotta really just start small and think about how you want to focus on one thing and be really good at that one thing. And then once you do that, then you can apply your formula, to expanding and bringing on other projects as well.
So how did you block out, what's the best way to say this? So when you're launching and you have so many ideas and they're all good ideas, but there's one idea that is really good, the one that you should focus on. How did you block out not getting distracted by other ideas or other concepts during that growth phase?
Well, that's actually a really good question, because when you work with a partner, and I don't know how many people listening actually do, but you always have someone to bounce ideas off of, but at the same time, you always have someone to kind of check you and put you back in your place at times.
No,
And
Anuj, don't do it.
yeah, no, I mean, sometimes people have to talk you off the ledge, but at the same time, you need to also do what you think is the right step for the company, right? That's why you're in the position of decision making, because it is at the end of the day, it is your company, along with obviously with my partner. But no, it is tough, and that kind of seems like a theme, right? Nothing is really easy, but
Mm-hmm.
you're always going to have a whirlwind of like emotions and ideas, and we should do this or we should do that, and it is good to have somebody else to bounce ideas off of, because if you don't really feel super strong about one idea as you do something else, then that you got to focus on the one thing that you really know that you want to do, or you really know is going to really blow up. And everything else kind of, you kind of just have to make everything else secondary for that, at least for that time period of when you're working on that one thing.
Okay. So you mentioned that you guys have like 9 different platforms now. What are the different platforms, and how did those come off of the main Daily Beat?
Right. So each platform itself represents something different. So we try to not overlap in content between each different website or each different platform. So, one of our websites will focus mainly on music and music only. Like, you won't find any like news flashes. You won't find any TMZ type stuff like gossip columns. You won't find any of that. It is purely music. And then on another site, you'll find things only about the dance music culture. And you'll find very little song or music postings. And on another website, you'll find like fashion postings and things like that. So it's important that, within your own ecosystem of a network, that you have different things that complement each other and you're not overlapping content. So the key thing is that, you want to have things that always add to your website and different aspects. I'm sorry, not website, media platform or network or whatever you'd like to call it. Yeah. It's it's important that when you bring new sites on or new platforms on or you develop them from scratch, it always brings something different. Because if you don't, then you're just missing an opportunity of expansion. You're missing an opportunity of breaking new ground into a different market or having a different demographic. So it's a lot of fun trying to identify which markets you want to go into and which viewership you want to tap into as well. But yeah, it's we also we don't always develop them from scratch. We also bring on partner sites that already have their demographic and viewership and things like that. So it's just a lot of good partnerships and a lot of foreshadowing as to where you think people will be focusing on in terms of music in the next 6 months to a year.
So how big was your team starting out, and how big are you guys now?
Let's see. When we started out, I mean, obviously it started out as me and Chris, and then kind of grew to like 4 or 5, 10 people on one site. And now, if I'm going to say, out of all of our different platforms, we probably have over 150, 175 people across the world. Yeah. So, or maybe, yeah, that sounds about right. 150 to 175, and everyone does something different, right? So it's sometimes we have videographers, photographers, PR people. So it's a huge mix of people all around the world.
You should see. I wish that podcasts had little buttons that you could switch and see people's faces. I wish you saw my face right now. So wait, that's a lot. And so, do you, as COO, what's your main role then now?
So we're still technically a startup, so I do wear multiple hats. It's a little bit of everything, but I am mainly, I try to connect all the dots between all the companies and all the different, platforms and websites. Like I said, we do bring on a lot of partner sites that have already established themselves. So I deal with a lot of their owners and their editor-in-chiefs and things like that. So I kind of, as me and Chris, we both kind of run the company in terms of vision and how we want to, develop it moving forward. But from there, I usually put, the action plans in action. So, I'm usually the one that's setting up the structure and, dealing with different regions and implementing all of our action plans and, making sure everything's running smoothly.
All right. So, like, if I had to say, what's the day in the life of Anuj like? What would it be?
Oh, geez.
A typical day. Like, you could mix days together to make, like, the ideal typical day.
Okay, let's see. Waking up, doing all my stuff, obviously, and then sitting at my desk no later than 10 a.m.
And in the city or at home?
Either at home or a city or wherever I am. The beauty about, having an online business is it's wherever you are, to be honest.
Okay.
So yeah, I try to be at my desk by 10. Just to make sure that even though it's a startup and you are your own boss, you want to definitely make sure you have your own time schedule and kind of hold yourself to that. So 10 a.m. I'm at my desk, reading all my emails. That's probably the first thing. Responding, replying, sending out emails. Recently, I've been doing a lot of VC outreach and maintaining relationships and talking with a lot of investors right now, since we are gearing up for our Series A. So my day recently really does consist a lot about how to gear ourselves up properly and dealing with VC clients and VC relationships. And then that kind of usually takes up until around like the afternoon time. And then after that, I'm dealing with the platform itself. I'm dealing with our writers and photographers, videographers, our partner sites, and things like that.
Okay, so right now you have a really big team, but do you guys pay your contributors, or are you guys mostly volunteer based? Like, what's your whole monetization structure, revenue structure look like now?
It's a little bit of both. In terms of paying out to writers and contributors, we do have a lot of college interns.
Mm-hmm.
I guess if you wanted to, put an official title to it, because the good thing about dance music is that our majority of our age group is between 18 and 24, which is prime college age, right? And a lot of them, they need college credits, for internships and things like that. So it's definitely something we love to do. We love to offer college credits, and I know a good chunk of our writers do it for college credits. Besides that, we do have a lot of contributors. That just have an amazing amount of passion for the scene, and they just want to write and get to know people and make connections. And, it just, if you love something, they just want to be in that scene. But there definitely are chances to make money out of it for sure. We do have like it's a little bit tough to explain, but we do have a structure where if a writer or a contributor sells an ad space on our website, they do make a commission off of that. So it is something where, if they do connect their writing prowess with their business prowess, they do make a heavy chunk of commission on that for sure.
That's unique. I've never heard of that, and I've done a lot of freelance writing.
Yeah.
Maybe I should write for your site.
Well, I mean, that's what you have to do. I mean, you have to just wheel and deal and make a favorable environment for every writer. I mean, it's nobody wants to ever work for free, right? So it's you have to put some value into it and make it attractive to them for sure.
So, do you guys so the sites that you run, are you guys basically just selling ad space, or do you have other type of monetization structures?
We do. It's really crucial that for any business, you want to have multiple streams of income. So we do. Our key thing is ad space, but we don't just throw like Google AdSense on the side and call it a day. We really like to get creative. Like, we deal with brands directly, whether it's Red Bull, Svedka, nightlife clubs, venues, things like that. First of all, we have to make sure it aligns with our brand, right, which is dance music. So every company that we work with kind of fits into our brand identity and aligns with our website and our content. So, we try to work directly with the brand. So it's a very seamless interaction when you go to any of the websites. You're really getting maximum like signage if you're a company. That's what you love to see, because nothing sucks more than going to a dance music website and then seeing a Ford ad for the Ford Explorer. You're kind of like, what is this?
Or
like,
a dentist ad, or a teeth whitening ad.
You're right. So we try to keep it on message, right? And we try to make it look very, very, very nice, and try to also keep it minimal at the same time, because no one wants to go to a website where you're just bombarded with, like ads and pop-ups and things like that. So that's very much against our philosophy in terms of ad sales. But we do have other revenue streams. We also have a virtual reality studio, in which we do virtual reality video projects for a lot of artists and festivals and nightlife venues as well. So that also is a huge opportunity to partner, Fortune 100 brands or Fortune 500 brands with artists, and it's a lot of creative work as well. I know it sounds really businessy when you talk about money and doing ad sales and things like that, but at the basis of it all, it's all very, very creative.
No, that sounds really cool to me, because I really think the whole future of media now, like the whole traditional just selling ad space, that's dying. People want to engage with brands now in a different way now. So I think as a media company, you have to figure out, how do you connect your audience with a brand, but still make it authentic and genuine at the same time.
That's probably the best way to put it. That you're absolutely right. And it's something where I think ad spending will definitely go up in terms of online and digital media, and it's going to decline when it comes to TV and cable ad sales. That's like just a little bit of prediction that I'm trying to tell people and see what they think about. But I have a feeling that ad spending on TV is definitely going down, and ad spending online and through the internet is going way up.
I know, and especially I think mobile apps, that people are
Yeah.
gonna brands are gonna figure out how to really connect with the consumer in a way that they don't even know that they're being marketed to, or they don't even know that they're being advertised to. It's all gonna be like native advertising,
Yep.
really good native advertising.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what we try to do as well. We try to advertise and make sponsored posts where, for example, if we're going to do a top 10 list, like top 10 music festivals to hit up this summer, and then you somehow tie that in with a brand. So you would say top 10 festivals to hit up this summer, sponsored by Red Bull.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of just you have to get very, very creative in the way that you merge the brand with the actual content. So yeah, you just have to get really creative nowadays. I mean, everybody's doing ad sales, so the more creative you can be, and the more ingenuity you have, the better it is for you.
So, at what point did you guys start, I guess, selling space on your site? And space in the sense of space could be anything. Like, did you guys wait until you reached like 1 million viewers per month or unique visitors? Like, what was that point where you started making money from the site?
We definitely did it pretty early on. I mean, early on, not day one, but when we kind of realized that there were people coming to our site. And I mean, at that point in time, we were using kind of just like Google AdSense, but at that point in time, we were just growing. So at that point, we were just trying to get people to come to our site. We weren't too worried about user experience, even though you always have to worry about that. If we saw a Ford advertisement, it wasn't the end of the world. But now it's completely different. As you scale up, you need to start realizing that your brand is also growing, and you have to be very, very careful and very aware of what is being tied to your brand at all times.
So let's talk about scaling and growing. Think back to like the beginning, right? What do you think were some of the crucial steps that your team took as a brand in order to grow your community? Because I feel like for a lot of people starting out, especially people who have online based businesses or online based communities, growth is so important, but it's also hard. So how did you guys do that?
Yeah, that's a good question. There is a fair amount of luck that goes into it, but nothing that you can throw your hands up and say, "Oh, well, I tried." There is definitely things that you can do to maximize your growth. The first is, if you're going to be a content website like we are, you have to have just really good content. You need to be able to have your own opinion and your own take on things, because even though not everybody will see it or agree with it, your voice is definitely resonating with like hundreds of other people that you don't even know about.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important that you kind of just say what you need to say or say what you want to say. If you don't, for us, I'll try to tie it into how we do it. If you don't like an artist for any certain reason, or if you really feel like the artist is underperforming, write about it. Don't be afraid. Don't be butt kissed like the PR companies just because he's a really cool artist and he's famous. As writers and people of the media, you have an obligation to really say what the truth is or what's on your mind, because you never know how many people are thinking the same way you are, but are either not, they don't have a medium to say it, or they're just scared to say it. So I always encourage my writers, every time I see them, I'm like, if you have an opinion, go for it. Definitely just go for it. Obviously you have to formulate your opinions properly and have reasoning and sources and background information, things like that. But I always tell them, if you have an opinion, go for it. And once you do that, people will start to realize that, oh, that's what his site is about, or that's what his site puts really good content out like that. And the next thing you know, they're clicking like on your Facebook page after they've noticed your site multiple times, like 2-3 times. They'll be like, okay, wow, I've been to this site 2 or 3 times now. Let me hit the Facebook the like button. And honest to God, I've done that before for other sites. It's you find yourself going back to either their Facebook page or their actual website, and you're like, okay, they're putting out good content. I want to click on the like button. So there's definitely you definitely have to make your own opinion and your own brand stand out. And the way to do that is to not regurgitate what everybody else is doing. You got to really, really put your own thoughts and words, into your articles and your content.
So what's your take on using social, whether it be paid or organic, to grow your brand?
I mean, we're kind of all at the mercy of social these days, which which kind of sucks, right? But there are awesome platforms like Medium.com. I love Medium, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody who hasn't checked it out, you definitely should. But I mean, listen, social media can only help, right? It's if you know how to use these tools, it can only help. I mean, in terms of paid versus organic, organic is always something that you want to aspire to, but there's always going to be paid advertising once you have a marketing budget, which, if you're growing, you definitely need a marketing budget at a certain point. Whether even if it's, you're spending $15-$20 a week or 2 weeks in Facebook ads or something like that, it's worth it if you're trying to grow. Currently we're not running any social media campaigns, but we are, definitely utilizing social media in terms of Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, Twitter, I think Pinterest as well. We have one. We have
Oh
a page.
wow.
So, yeah, I don't run the Pinterest page, but it's there somewhere. I know it is.
What would you guys post, like inspirational dance festival outfits, or it's
Yeah,
like
no, exactly. Because we used to do. I remember we used to have a column. I think we still do have the column. It's a fashion column. Like 10 top looks at or top 10 looks at Coachella or something like that.
hmm
And that type of stuff goes on Pinterest. I mean, I'm not a huge Pinterest user, but there are other people that are use it for sure. And things like that. You can pin it, I think is the word. I'm not even sure.
hmm
Yeah, so there's cool things like that. But there's a lot of cool applications for social media. Like you can run contests and all the other things that you see with Instagram and tag your friends, this and
hmm
that. All of that are good like organic tips on how to extend your reach.
So, are you guys a slave to data? Like, how important is data and analytics to growing your company?
Um, you have some really good questions.
I know. This is the best one. This was like I don't have. I'm just like scribbling notes. I'm channeling my inner Oprah. I was inspired by her interview with Michelle Obama last week. So I'm like, you know what? Let me just channel my inner Oprah and ask the questions I really want to ask. You said I could
Yeah,
before
no,
this.
absolutely. I love these are like tough questions, which make me think, right? Um, so the deal with analytics and data, and when it comes to websites, is that they're always going to be there, and people will always grade you according to those. Especially when you're going for an investment round like we are, some of the biggest questions are, okay, like, what are your data? What are your statistics? What are your click-through rates? What are, XYZ? And, they need to be good, because that's, as a website, that's really what it's all about in terms of, monetizing off of it and actually being a business. However, we get to have fun with our website, like you can't only be about business all the time. You need to stay creative. And sometimes, we say, screw the data. Let's just do what feels right. Let's just do what looks good, what feels right, what, is on point with our brand. And, those are tough decisions that you have to make as a business owner or a co-business owner. It's just something that, um, if you do enough research and you really have feel strongly one way or the other, you should just go with it. And but yeah, no, with data and statistics, they're always going to be there for sure, and you're always going to have to include it in whenever you're explaining or summarizing your media network or your websites or whatever. Um, because it's just the common language when it comes to content and online content. Like, how many shares did your page get, or
hmm
how many views did your video get? It's just the common metric that everybody knows, and people will grade you on it. It's kind of like Facebook likes. How many likes does your page have? Is it 40,000, 50,000, 60,000? So
hmm
it's just, and it kind of sucks because people will grade you according to that, but that's the way it is, and you have to deal with that.
Definitely. So I definitely want to ask while we're chatting. I want to ask you about partnerships and networking, because I think one of the core things of building any business is your relationships,
Mhm.
and I know you guys have worked with some really big brands, as you mentioned before. So how did you go about? What was your strategy of attack for building valuable yet strategic relationships for the Daily Beat brand?
It's very, very hard. I'll be completely honest. Just getting in the door when you're a young company and you're small, just getting in the door to have a conversation with some of these big brands is near impossible. Who are you going to email? How are you going to get this contact information? What are you going to say to them? Because for them, they work, and I'm just going to use Red Bull as an example. Like, they work for Red Bull. They're one of the biggest companies in the world, and especially with branding towards millennials. So, what are you going to do to make Red Bull listen to you, and what are you going to offer them? Um, you really, getting through the door is the biggest problem. That's the first problem you're going to face, and also it's going to be the hardest problem. Only because, like I said, they're just going to brush your email off. They probably get hundreds of emails a day, whoever, the one person you're contacting within that company. So, it's always really good to get an introduction from someone. I love to use LinkedIn to see who I'm connected with, who a mutual connection is. And I'm never ashamed or afraid to ask for an introduction to someone because, it just holds so much more weight than cold emailing somebody. And, I've done my rounds of cold emailing. I've sent maybe over 100 to 200,000 cold emails so far in
Two
my
hundred
career.
thousand.
Easy. I mean, you just send them out. Like, you have to, because if you don't have a connection, like, you just have to keep doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with VCs and venture capitalists. It's those are really important to have connections to. But if not, what are you going to do? You just have to not take no for an answer and just keep going at it. But once you do get that your 15 seconds of fame, so to speak, with these guys, you really have to capitalize on it. You really need to, show them what you're doing is different and it deserves their time. It works the same way with anybody who, texts you or calls you or tries to pitch you something.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you get like a door-to-door salesman, right? It's so easy to just close the door on them and say, I'm not interested, right? So the one time that you do get through the door, you have to make it count. And then once you do that, it's very important to foster the relationship and maintain it. And doing that is just continue to do amazing work and do exactly what you were doing.
So, thinking back about the brands that you've worked with, which was the hardest for you guys to secure?
Ooh, let me think. I'm gonna say uh, I've got tons of rejections. I'll be completely honest. I mean, listen, no business owner will tell you that their success rate is 100%, right? You will stumble and fall so many times before you get any bit of success, and that's just part of paying your dues, right? So I don't know, I'm gonna have to say, I think Monster Energy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they didn't even give me the time of day, and that kind of pissed me off a little bit. But like I said, it goes with the territory, right? If you're gonna be, asking them to spend money on your website, you have to be comfortable with people just saying no, or it's not for us, or you know, sometimes they won't even respond to you, and they won't even respond to your emails. But it's part of life. You keep your head up and you keep moving on to the next one and the next one, and until something works and clicks for you.
So, do you normally reach out to like their PR team, like their marketing team? Who is the team that you guys are trying to connect with?
Very early on, it was partnerships and marketing.
Mm-hmm.
But nowadays, it's much easier to get a connection. One person, and that one person knows somebody else, and sometimes they'll forward you over an email. So that's the channel I like to work with nowadays.
Okay.
And I kind of target companies by utilizing those connections. Like, who can I connect with is kind of one of my first of two questions when deciding on who I want to try to work with next, or who I want to try to advertise on our website. Because it's something you don't take lightly. If you have a connection, try to use it. As opposed to wasting 5-10 emails or 5-10 emails a week on cold emailing somebody. If there's something that's there for you, you should try to utilize it, see where it takes you. Even if it doesn't work out at the end, at least you can say you tried that path and it didn't work out. It didn't work out.
So, is there anything you regret today about your entrepreneurial journey, or anything that you would do differently?
I'm sure there definitely is, and I'm always one of those people that say, you're lying if you say you have no regrets, because we're just, as humans, we're wired that way, to always look back in hindsight and say, like, damn, I wish I did something different there. I'm trying to think of one particular example to give you. Let's see.
Well, while you're thinking, I want to say thank you for saying you have a regret, because most people I interview, they're like, life is all a learning. Everything that
Yeah.
happens to me, I learn from. So,
No, no, no. That's 100% true. No, that is definitely true. Like, you need to learn from every mistake that you make. But if anybody says they don't have a regret, that's kind of like the typical quote unquote entrepreneur answer to give you. But I'll be 100% real with you. I mean, if you don't have regrets, then I just feel like humans were naturally wired to have regrets. You do something wrong, and you're like, damn, I wish I went back in time and I could fix that. Like, why wouldn't you want to do that? Obviously you don't linger on it and you don't let it bring you down. But to say, I don't know, for someone to say that I don't have any regrets, I feel like that's just complete. I just feel like it's complete BS.
That's
But
the ego talking.
yeah, I 100% agree with them where it's a learning experience, especially, and I know the whole theme with the Dreams and Drive is entrepreneurship and, taking that leap of faith with, starting your own projects, and you're gonna fail and you're gonna learn from that. And all of that is 100% true. But let me try to find one regret for you though.
Okay. I think of a good question to ask you next. You think of the regret, okay?
Oh, show. Let's see.
Or just something that went wrong. You're like, damn, I could have prevented that. Or
You know what? Okay, I have one for you. With the record label, I know I kind of touched light on this before. We kind of put it on the back burner a little bit. Once we noticed that, our websites were taking off. I wish we didn't do that. Going back on it now, I feel like we could have, if we could have just, temporarily put it on the back burner, and we just, came back to it after a couple of weeks or a couple of months and really put our time into that as well. So I feel like that could be a regret. But then again, like I said, I'm not lingering on it. It's just like I look back on it and I'm like, oh, cool, that could have been another, a revenue stream, But I don't like let it bother me. It's not something that I'll sit here and say, oh, damn, like I need to go back and fix that, or you move on, you live and learn. So that's my take on it.
so what's like one of the I guess what has been one of your proudest moments as as a co-founder, as a CEO, as a somebody who had a dream and drove towards it. Looking back, what's something that you really really am proud about?
Wow, finally an easy answer, an easy question. This is simple only because I remember standing in my room this one day when we got our. This was like about a year and a half ago. We got a valuation of our company, and when you're kind of in at the ground level and you start something at the value of zero, and you get something which which is really good. I mean, like in the millions, it's kind of like I did that. I did that obviously with my partner, but like we did that. And that was I kind of sat there and I was like, I succeeded at this. This is a sense of accomplishment. But don't get me wrong, there was a lot of stumbles along the way. It's not something where you just woke up overnight and we were like, yay, we did it. It just kind of all it did for us. It just proved our product a little bit, and it told us that there's something here and we should continue with it. And that was kind of for me at least the moment in which I was like, what, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to go even harder with this than I was before, only because somebody gave us a valuation. And I was like, holy crap, like if you told me 3-4 years ago that I would be a co-founder of a whatever the valuation was, I would have been like, you're lying, shut up, and like, give me a job somewhere else. So it was just something that really like proved our product, and it proved us as a partnership and as a pair of two people working together. So that was probably the biggest accomplishment in terms of work life and career life.
So I have a 3-word question for you. Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
Do you sleep?
Uh, yeah, of course I do.
No, because I feel like I hear a lot of entrepreneurs. I think there's two cultures. There's like the go hard until you can't go hard anymore. I never sleep entrepreneur, and then there are like the work efficiently, still have a life type of entrepreneurs. Which one are you?
I'm in the middle of both of them.
Okay.
You know what? You know the funny thing that I've noticed is that millennials, and when millennials open their own businesses, um, we may not respond to your emails right away, but you'll be damn sure that we'll be responding to emails at 10:30 at night in our bed on our phone. And that's something that I've realized where in the beginning when you're building your company, it is a 24/7. You don't have if you have a phone, you're working. And I'm a victim of that. Like I say victim, but it's not really a victim victor situation. It's a choice, and you kind of just do it, and you love it because what you're doing is you're really passionate about what you're doing, and that's like prerequisite number one. By the way, if in starting your own business, if you're not passionate about what you're doing, don't even do it. You're going to waste your time and probably end up wasting a lot of money in the process. So if you don't feel like taking a call regarding your work on Saturday at like 5 p.m., then the entrepreneurial life is probably not for you. I always make sure that I'm still there for family events. If there's a dinner I need to go to, I will definitely, turn off my laptop earlier. It is very, very important at the end of the day to take time for yourself. If you are one of those 24/7, 365 type of entrepreneurs or dream chaser, then it is very important that you do work in some time for yourself, whether that's hitting the gym or going out for a run, hanging out with friends, socializing. It kind of you decompress, and you need that because the lifestyle that business owners and entrepreneurs live is one of the most stressful. I mean, there's very little security. I mean, in the beginning, you don't know where your next paycheck is going to come from, if it's going to come at all. So, there's a lot of stress that a lot of people don't see. I think people like to see entrepreneurship and they like to see the end product, which is most of the time, or hopefully speaking, a successful business with a nice house and a car, all of that stuff. But, there is a lot of uncertainty and a lot of stress in early days, especially when you've taken a leap of faith to start your own business. So, you definitely need to decompress. And with that, play some sports, go to the gym, hang out with your friends, go see movies. You have to make time for that stuff, even though it sounds kind of like weird when you say that you need to make time for yourself. But once you get going and once you really are building your own projects and things like that, you tend to forget to take time for yourself. So it's very, very important. Very important.
All right, so let's go to our lightning round. So this part of our interview, I like to give our guest a prompt, and I want you to tell me the first word that comes to mind. Okay?
Cool.
All right, the first word is park.
Standby.
Reverse.
Fail.
Neutral.
Nothing.
And then drive.
Forward.
All right, and then the last thing is you can't be a dream driver without your keys, right? So tell me the three things that you think any aspiring dream driver needs to have in their toolkit before hitting the road. So the keys to success, what are they for you? Three things.
Do you want them to be like physical tools, like a computer, phone, things like that?
Anything. Whatever you think of when you think of keys to success, tell me the first three things that come to mind.
Okay, perseverance. A phone. And passion.
Okay. All right.
I kind of threw the phone in there just because you need to take notes and call people and all that stuff.
You might need a GPS too if you're not good with directions, because I know I'm not.
Yep, Google Maps all the way.
Oh wait, Anuj, I forgot to ask you the question I ask everyone. So we'll just do it now, okay?
Yeah.
Who were you like? What were you like as a child? So what inspired you growing up?
You'll probably get this answer a lot. It's my parents. I mean,
I never got that one yet. 20 episodes
really?
in. I mean, well, I've recorded more than that. So as many episodes I've done, I've never got that.
For me, it was simple. I mean, I've literally, like, my parents had the very typical immigrant story. Like, my dad came here with $20 in a dream, literally like $20, and he just came here for school, and he worked jobs. He worked at a motel, and just the exact immigrant story that pretty much everybody hears. it's true, and it happened. And that was my dad, and my mom was the same way. And when my parents got their first restaurant, I remember seeing my parents sleeping in the office, and that's, I still remember that image vividly. I mean, I must have been like 4 or 5, but I can paint you that picture, and that's one of those images that's like always stuck with me. Um, and just, you get inspiration from little things like that, like anybody could have came here and failed, but why did they succeed? And it's something, it's just in their work ethic and their perseverance. That's why, for me, perseverance was always going to be the first answer when you said what's going to be in my toolkit. Perseverance is always number one, because it's never going to be easy, and more often than not, you're going to find out that some people that you thought were friends are just your detractors, and they're telling you, dude, it's not worth it, or it's not worth your time. And at the same time, you'll find out who your real friends are. They will support you and be real with you and give you proper criticism. But for me, it has to be my parents. I mean, every day I wake up, I see my parents do what they do, and I wouldn't be here without them. So it has to be my parents. I mean, especially putting us through school, such a nice school as Dwight, and then college, heroes right there, real life heroes.
I think that's a perfect way to end our episode.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Anuj.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
All right. All right, that's a wrap for episode 23, and I hope you guys enjoyed listening to Anuj tell his story. At the same time, I really hope that you guys are ready for episode 24, which is where Anuj interviews me, which is actually going to be lots of fun. If you're listening on iTunes or SoundCloud, please leave us a comment, review us, subscribe to our channel. Let's help get this Dreams and Drive movement growing. And if you want to get show notes for today's episode, just go to dreamsanddrive.com, click on episode 23, and you can read more about Anuj and get his takeaways and other goodies there. As always, keep driving, keep dreaming, keep doing, keep executing. You guys got this. You're my inspiration. I appreciate you all. See you next time. Or talk to you next time. Yeah, talk to you guys next time. Bye.